It's the wind chill.
All righty, folks. How are you doing today? Welcome on into the Central Committee stream with your host, Mike from PA. We are live once again. Ho, ho, ho. Welcome on in. It is May 12th, 2025. How is everybody doing today? Wow, what a bunch of news to talk about today. Mike, why is Trump doing socialist shit? He's not. He absolutely is not. But he is caving to China. A lot of news today. Donald Trump is caving to China on tariffs, and the stock market surged. The VIX down to 19. Can we get denims? We'll try. Hassan was stopped by ICE. Here's his post on Twitter. But U.S. popularity worldwide has utterly collapsed. Thank you for this link. U.S. popularity collapses worldwide in wake of Trump's return, but he's caving on the tariffs. It looks like China, an epic, complete, and utter Chinese victory on the tariff issue. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is starting to whisper pressure on. There's some whispers of pressure on Israel. An American Israeli prisoner of war was just released as a part of the negotiations between Hamas and the United States that have now begun. Benjamin Netanyahu just recently said they needed to decouple from America, whatever the fuck that means. But Trump can say GKs and GG. It was all for nothing. Except here's the problem: they indeed did fuck with the markets, as I said before. Did I not have a prediction about this, chat? This is the reason why I wasn't shorting the market, because I knew eventually they were going to cave. Now, this might be a good entry point for going short, to be honest. Maybe not today, but I didn't want to go short because I saw this kind of coming. I was like, as soon as they say it's caved on, ooh, it's starting to sell off a little bit off the peak, which is interesting. It would rise like this. I literally have a clip where I just directly predict this. Does anyone have that? You should take a look at that. What else did I have? Oh yeah, there's a new GDF on Ethan Klein. Everybody is milking Ethan Klein at this point. And I think, oh, and then Hassan was with Mélenchon. I haven't seen it yet, chat. I didn't see the Mélenchon interview. So if you guys want, we could watch that together and you can get my comments, which was really exciting. Here's your prediction at TikTok. This is the Mike from PA analysis. Prepared a clip. Are you ready? Donald Trump doesn't know what the fuck's going on any issue. He generally likes tariffs because he's an old Fox News grandpa racist. He is going to cave.
145% is very high, and it won't be that high. It's not going to be that high.
And the stock market is going to be so exultingly happy when he caves, it'll spike at, thousands of points. Problem is, damage has already been done. The economy is going to go in recession. News is going to get worse and worse. There's going to be inflation because a bunch of orders were canceled, so there's going to be a shortage of goods. It's going to be disruptive. The economy is going to contract, and we're going to face a recession anyway after he gets abso-fucking-lutely nothing. So, and there you have it. Stock market went up 1,000 points. We're getting absolutely fucking nothing. Oh yeah, chat. Another Mike was right moment. Sometimes I have minor disagreements with people, and one of the things that I disagreed with a lot of people on was AB. I thought that it wasn't right to give Dan and AB and members of the crew who were just standing by or even helping attack pro-Palestinian creators. I didn't think it was fair to give them the benefit of the doubt, and so I spoke out. And I took a lot of heat for it, especially because I'm white, Like, I'm white. How dare I criticize, a Lebanese man? Well, I mean, half Lebanese from Michigan. So, I mean, what the fuck is that even supposed to be, Banshee? Kuba Banshee, what the fuck is that even supposed to be? I don't even know what that is. Like, I almost want to time you out because I have no idea what the fuck that's supposed to be. My mind is just not processing that into anything. What, Hassan was stopped by ICE? Yes. Yes, he was. There, he posted it. So we're going to talk about the Hassan being stopped by ICE. This unhinged Zionist tweet from the Florida Panthers owner. Mahmoud Khalil wrote a letter. Wait, No, not owner and no proof of legitimacy removed. Okay, well, looks like Reddit doesn't agree that that's actually real, but maybe we'll see. The only person on that podcast that had the benefits of the doubts is Olivia, in my opinion. She doesn't engage in any of it. That's the problem. That's the problem. Being apathetic in the face of oppression, in the face of genocide, is not virtuous. It's one thing to be going about your day, living your life, but if you're part of a Zionist propaganda production, you have to quit, or you need to shut it down by striking. And if you think that I'm being an asshole, fuck you, you dumb moderate fuck. And it's easy for me to say because I'm not working for the Zionist production. Why do you think I have my stream? You don't think that I've been offered when I was running for office? You don't think that when I was in campaigns that I wasn't offered to be sell out? You know how many times I've turned down selling out, and then you're coming to me and saying, ooh, turning down selling out is really hard. Fuck you. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And this also isn't, by the way, this, you know, people saying like, you're saying they need to quit. You need, I'm saying they need to at least try to stop it. And anybody who tells you, no, you shouldn't try to stop it because, Mike, you live in America, and if you pay taxes, it goes to Israel. Or if you do this, it go, you know, if you use banks, it goes to Israel in some, you know, in some way. It's like you have completely lost the plot. There's one thing where the structures of society force you to interact to survive and thrive in our society with institutions that also interact with Israel versus creating propaganda for Israel. If you can't make a distinction between the two, your brain don't work no good. And what you're effectively doing is running cover for people that are doing Israeli work. Why are you running cover for people that are doing Israeli work? That is a question that needs to be answered and asked. One of the most important things you learn in law school, and the thing that I think was actually a turning point for me stepping up into like a higher level of processing information, was the concept of distinguishment, which is such a simple concept that you would think everybody would understand, but it helped intellectualize it for me in such in a concise way. What is distinguishment? Distinguishment is when there are similar situations, but nonetheless the just outcome is different. Just because situations have similarities in some aspects, there may be something that is so important that it causes us to distinguish between the two and treat them differently. This is very basic shit, but for some reason, I think I run into failures to provide distinguishment, or it is as the number one crisis of thought for most fucking idiots. Like most people that I think are legitimate idiots, it's because they can't distinguish between two separate fucking things. They try to flatten everything into the same thing. And it's like, no, some things are just different. What else do we have? What else are we talking about today? Oh yeah, new John Oliver. We didn't watch the last John Oliver because I don't think I cared that much. I think it was on tariffs, but we didn't get around to it. It's fine. Maybe we'll watch it one weekend. I didn't stream this weekend because, quite frankly, chat, I needed time off. I needed time off. You know, when you just don't want to. I have my own, you know, everybody has their own life and shit going on, and it was Mother's Day, you know, it's just like, I don't need to force it. Damn, dude, that really hit. It's a simple concept, and you're right. Dumb people don't distinguish. Oh, yeah. And in the law, it's all about distinguishing things. What makes this different than a previous situation where we ruled a certain way? And what makes that logically consistent? What makes that just? I think a lot of stupid people, they just want to they think that you can just make categories that are very simple and have black and white language, and then you're going to get justice out the other end. And the answer is no, you fucking won't. Because no matter what the rules are, intelligent people are going to twist the rules for their advantage. So it's a constant game of cat and mouse between people seeking justice and people seeking personal advantage. And so the rules must change to anticipate the way that self-interested individuals are trying to abuse the system. That is the way it must work. If you just say, oh, the rules will be this way, they'll be fixed, they'll be like this, it'll be simple, what'll end up happening is those rules will be picked apart until they are completely different from what the outcome they were supposed to get to achieve. And I think this like constant activity is what bums people out. I think a lot of people get involved in politics, and in the back of their mind, is they desire the end of politics. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, we'll just eventually get to the point where politics won't exist. And it's like, that will never happen. That will never happen. There will be politics in communism. All right. It's never going to stop. All right. People are going to disagree on shit. There is a Chinese centric news show on YouTube right up your alley. It's called Reports on China. Maybe. I actually think there is a big niche available for China sympathetic news that's nonetheless accurate. Like, doesn't just take Chinese propaganda at face value, but at the same time also is not like anti-China. I think there is a really nice niche available for a commentator like that. I think it would be very hard to establish your logos and ethos. But I think there would be a really good spot for that on the internet. That's an opportunity that I see out there. I think there are people making it like TikToks and shit. When you talk about distinguishment, are you saying that we should understand that situations more similar than we think, or things are much different than we think? More different. Like, for example, distinguishing between you participate in society curious, you're supporting Israel, versus you work for a Zionist propaganda podcast. Those are different things, okay? Like, actively creating Zionist propaganda is much worse than just living in society. And people try to, like, flatten this difference between the two. To do what? To protect people like AB. It's like, why are you trying to flatten the differences? They're massively different. They're massively different. Living in society versus making Zionist propaganda. Stop trying to flatten the things. You're being pathetic. You're being stupid. And I think the reason why a lot of people do that is because they actually do a lot of evil shit themselves, and they want to distance themselves from it by creating an excuse. Aeronaud Bertrand on Twitter does great China coverage, not just glazing. I like him. He's just a little bit too pro. He's a little bit too much in the glaze category. He's pretty close. He's like the best Chinese, like, pro-China poster, in my opinion. He's just a little bit too much of a glazer. Okay, Jack, the schizo is here. Jack, please get mental health treatment. Jack, get mental health treatment. I really think that you should check yourself in for residential mental health treatment. I'm sure you're still on your parents' health insurance. Go in there. Maybe they can help you with hygiene, and go fucking get mental health treatment. You'll be so much happier. You'll be back here on Jack, I'm medicated, and you'll be telling me how much I helped you. Come back in like 3 weeks on Jack, I'm now medicated. I'm now normal, and you'll be so much happier, man. You really will be.
So Denims has begun.
Here's my feeling about the Denims lawsuit, by the way. Denims is completely in the right. She was defamed by Ethan Klein. That's about end of my my feeling. I mean, a lot of us were defamed by Ethan Klein. The main reason that I personally haven't gotten involved yet, as far as like suing Ethan Klein, is because I want to see just how bad the Brett Kavanaugh, what kind of chunk Brett Kavanaugh takes out of his ass. And it's very likely that Ethan Klein declares bankruptcy. So I want to reserve my lawsuit to after he declares bankruptcy, because I don't want my damages to be discharged in bankruptcy. So it'll be a fresh lawsuit right after he gets done with the Ryan Kavanaugh bankruptcy that he's going to have to go through. Not Brian Kavanaugh. What is his name? Ryan Kavanaugh. Sorry. Ryan Kavanaugh. Brent Kavanaugh. Not the Supreme Court Justice. I always do this. I always mix them up. When Ryan Kavanaugh sues, let me say that from the top. The reason why I haven't got involved is because I expect he will have to declare bankruptcy after the Ryan Kavanaugh lawsuit from Ethan Klein and Ryan Kavanaugh. It will probably cost him millions. And his most likely outcome is he declares bankruptcy. So I don't want his legal responsibilities to me to be discharged in bankruptcy. So I want to wait and see what the outcome is of the Ryan Kavanaugh lawsuit against Ethan Klein, so that when he emerges from bankruptcy, he can get hit with a fresh lawsuit. So right now, I feel like it's totally and the problem with that is, there is a statute of limitations, so we have to keep cognizant of that. After bankruptcy, but before the first divorce. Yeah, exactly. Now you're getting it. What would happen to his assets during the bankruptcy? It depends on what the creditors want to do. Denims wants to retract and apologize so she can refund the GoFundMe. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, but he just said he won't do it. He literally has said he won't retract. Even though everything she said is correct, he lied about her and he defamed her. He's saying he won't retract because to him, the thing about Ethan Klein is he's very stupid. And this is something that I hope Ethan Klein sees. I hope you see this clip, Ethan Klein. Ethan, I don't know what happened to you when you were growing up. Maybe you didn't get properly educated, but being wrong doesn't make you a bad person. It just means that you didn't have the complete picture. And when you change your mind on something and you apologize, that doesn't make you lesser. That makes you a man. Instead of being a little boy, you have become a man. When you can look at a situation and get new information and go, you know what? What I previously thought isn't correct. This new information has changed my mind. I'm sorry. And here's what I think now. That's a sign of you being a man. That's why iDubbbz is a man and you're still a little boy. Because iDubbbz, he learned about the world and he realized, you know, the shit that I've done is hurting people. And I am not creating the world that I want to live in. And so I'm going to change. And I'm going to take a risk. And you know how brave that is to go against your financial interest, like iDubbbz did, and say, you know, this type of right-wing shit is bullshit. This kind of dog whistly stuff isn't funny. You know how fucking brave that is? You know how much sack that takes? That's why iDubbbz is a better person than you in every way. Does it hurt the legal argument of Denims that she's more popular from the lies instead of monetarily harmed? No, because you don't understand the full context. Just because Denims became popular and because she became more famous doesn't mean that the defamation didn't cause damage. And in fact, there is plenty of cognizable damage that has been done to Denims. And also in defamation law, there are some things that you can say about people where that is just defamation on its face and you don't need to prove damages. So she has an element where there is articulable damages that have been done to Denims, notwithstanding her increased popularity. And furthermore, a lot of what he's done is just defamation per se, which is on its face defamation, doesn't require proof of damages to prove. So defamation per se and you know, prima facie defamation, like all of these concepts, Ethan Klein has fully enacted. And the thing is, like, Ethan Klein is likely going to be adjudicated as a defamer in, you know, the Ryan Kavanaugh case. So all this loops back onto it. The thing about lawsuits is they take a while. For many people, they think the Ryan Kavanaugh shit is ancient history. Like, for a lot of Ethan Klein's fans, they think the Ryan Kavanaugh stuff doesn't even matter. But the reality is that it's actually entering a terminal phase where he's about to lose. Like, he's exhausted all of his litigious and meritless appeals and motions, and they've gone through all of the legal slowdowns that Ethan Klein's lawyers can cook up so they can milk him for as much billable hours as possible. But we're getting to the point where he's run out of appeals. He's run out of motions. The trial is approaching, and then the trial will end. It's not going to happen overnight, but you know, for what feels like ancient history on the internet is brand new and fresh meat for the legal system. And if I were Ryan Kavanaugh, I would take him to the fucking cleaners and like starting more shit. I think part of the reason why Ethan Klein is acting the way he is because, like, I don't know if you saw his response to Denims, and why don't we talk about that? Why don't we start it off? Because I just got to get it off my chest. You know, I got to get it off my chest. Then we'll talk about Hassan being stopped by ICE and all the other shit. But will Ethan Klein be sued by Denims for defamation? And like, here's the reality of this is, like, this is part of a larger milieu on the internet space where the left is getting powerful again. The vibes are starting to shift, and a lot of the right wingers are trying to stop it from a position of power. Right? Like, the reason why Asmongold is trying to attack all of us on the left on this platform when he was used to be a free speech warrior is because he can sense the vibes are shifting. People are disgusted by Trump. The vibes are starting to swing back the other way. Why do you think Tectone is, you know, is eyeing the exits? Because they know we're coming for them. Ethan asked Denims to call in the moment she's suing him, knowing her lawyer would advise against it. Here's my feeling overall. Ethan Klein wants you to call into his safe space. just so he can yell over you like he did for Hassan, where he won't play the clips like he did with Hassan. I have no interest into calling into Ethan Klein's stream where he has 8 people helping him and he can look at Chat GPT. Why doesn't he stand face to face with me, mano a mano, with a moderator, not with no fucking internet, no fucking Chat GPT, no producers to hang off of him and play the clips he once played? What a fucking cuck he is. He's a coward. Dan will moderate. Dan completely silent for the entire conversation, playing the clips he orders him to play and doesn't play the clips of, like, for example, one of the arguments that Ethan Klein made against Hassan is that Hassan had allowed his chat unmoderated to attack me for years. And then Hassan said, well, here's a 10-minute compilation of me defending you against chat and timing people out for attacking you and moderating my chat. And he's like, I'm not playing this. This is boring. It's like, what a pathetic cuck. Once I saw that, I knew he was a pathetic fucking cuck.
Fundraiser to sue Ethan Klein for falsely accusing her of a crime, which is a false call to CPS. I want to know that I approve 100% of this lawsuit, and I would very much like to see it go through. So if you would like to help the Avengers, that's me. I'm the Avenger. It's me. And
Assad was pretty annoying about that, to be honest. Dude refused to listen to us for almost a year. I mean, what do you mean? What about when I started talking about AB? How many people attacked me? How many people attacked me for being a, quote, white man? How dare a white man call out AB and the crew? Leave the poor crew alone. How many people did that? And now those same people are now going, you know, I've lost a lot of respect for these people. And it's like, are you going to apologize to Mike for being right? Are you going to apologize to Mike? Are you going to say, you know what? Mike actually saw this coming a lot before I did. And the reason why, it's not because I'm smarter than people or whatever. It's because I have materialist analysis. This guy has been working for Ethan since he was 16 years old. He has no job skills. He has no prospects. He's got no charisma. His entire life is the H3H3 podcast. Okay? Like, he'll never leave the H3H3 podcast. He is a sycophant. He is a minion. He is a toady. He can't leave. So, of course, he's not going to have our back while his Zionist boss, you know, attacks us. And what really made me pop off was when we found out that AB was sending Ethan Klein small people on Instagram to go dox. That's what I really went after AB. So people went after me because I was defending chatters from being doxxed by Ethan Klein. That really pissed me off. I'm not gonna lie. Like, that really did piss me off. I mean, you're defending Ethan Klein against me. Pathetic. That one I'm never gonna forget, by the way, ever. I think the best thing that the new Gundam series has given me is an alternative term to use crash instead of crash out. The term crash out to me is a cold product. Ethan at H3 on the verge of a full Zek Nova. Okay, I can't use anime shit.
And Dan, I'm sorry, you're not an Avenger. You're not an Avenger. But if you would like to help us get Ethan Klein into a courtroom, you should go to Ethan Klein Live.
If your job is to do like concentration camp cleanup, does the just following orders work?
.com and don't
anymore. Like, AB, I want you to see this shit, bro. اي رفيق bro. عن جد يعني شو هالكس bro. What an embarrassment. I hope you like that money. I hope you like the fucking paycheck, bro, but you have no fucking dignity, bro, and everyone fucking sees it. Walking around Los Angeles happy with your fucking Gucci bags and shit. What's the cost of that fucking Gucci bag, bro? Your fucking dignity, bro. You got none of it left. You got none of it left. Mike from PA's got fucking 500 times the amount of dignity you motherfucking got, bro. And he's got good taste in Korean barbecue. And his hair smelled fucking fantastic. If you see that picture again, his hair was like long and flowing. But anytime he moved, I could get a whiff of his fucking shampoo. Clean ass fucking hair. Love fucking Mike from PA. Anymore. Like, AB, I want you to see this shit, bro. اي رفيق bro. عن جد يعني شو.
I mean, it's true. I took him to one of the best Korean barbecues in the world, and like, what could he even say, right? Like, you know, what could he even say? I'm a good host. And like, what did AB post a response? You know what AB posted a response?
Saying that we did one previous.
Welcome to our updated apartment tour.
Welcome, guys. This is what $4,200 will get you in LA.
Literally. I'm not even memeing. This is what AB responded with.
This is the living room. We previously did an apartment tour. Let me preface by saying that we did one previously, and there may be some overlap, but we have a lot of upgrades. We just moved in when I uploaded that last video, and a lot of it was empty. Now it feels like it's complete. Well, more complete at least. This is our TV that we got when we moved in here. This is an 85-inch Samsung. The main reason I wanted it is because it's less reflective and because we have so many windows on the other side.
85 inches in that small space. No class. Anyway, all I could say is, like, there you have it. Like, what can you even say? Wait, Hasanabi is cucked by ICE? Yeah, guys, it's cucked. You're cucked. When the police try to oppress you, you're cucked. YouGov just released a poll last week asking what various things are anti-Semitic. What is BDS? And it's interesting to see. Do you think BDS is anti-Semitic? What page is it? Yeah, 65 inches. Yeah, I mean, don't even get me started, man. Anti-Semitic or not? Cut off academic ties of American universities with Israeli universities and protests of Israel government policy. Anti-Semitic 30%, not anti-Semitic 27%, 37% not sure. Why would that be anti-Semitic? Again, so what it's, by the way, chat, here's a little tip. Here's a little tip. Whenever you see a poll and there are more, they say there's like 3 answers and roughly 33% of people have each answer, that means it's random and there is no strong feeling. That's what that, so roughly dividing into 3 equal shares means random, and you shouldn't take much from that. Denying the Holocaust happened. Anti-Semitic, 67%. Only 67% of people think denying the Holocaust happened is anti-Semitic. Amazing. Believing that American Jews are more loyal to Israel than they are to the US. Only 34% say that's anti-Semitic. Yikes. Asserting that Jews killed Jesus. Only 38% of people say that's anti-Semitic. When it comes to anti-Semitism, do you think that Donald Trump is generally more focused on solving the problem? 30%. Using the problem for political gain? 49%. Okay, this is just me. It's 49% of people hate Donald Trump and 30% of people like Donald Trump. In the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, are your sympathies more with Israel? 27%. About equal? 31%. The Palestinians? 17%. Or not sure? 25%. Or answers? Roughly 25%. Like the not sure being exactly 25%. That's random answers, basically. What else? Is anti-Semitism a serious problem in the United States? Very serious, 25. Somewhat serious, 33. A minor, 16. Not a problem, 7. Not sure, 19. I would probably say U.S. anti-Semitism is a minor problem or a somewhat serious problem. I'm somewhere in there. Very serious? No. I think it's bad, but like in America? No. I like YouGov because they actually ask interesting questions. Did you see that AB thanks Dan Saltzman? Everybody who said Mike is so mean for going after AB because he's a white man needs to apologize to me right now.
Fucking dick. You guys need to hop the fuck off.
AB, just wanted to voice my support for you guys. Forget the snark losers. You don't deserve that bullshit. Also, they wear Velcro shoes and chew with their mouth open. Well, thank you. Thank you for the download. It's very kind of you. But see, that's the thing. Even reading your message, that's it. I have sold my allegiance to one side. It's just fucking no matter what, no matter where I turn.
Listen, he wants to be able to take money from the Zionists and say their side's legitimate. What are you guys complaining about? He can't. Why can't he take money from both sides? Okay, why can't he take money from both sides, guys? Why are you so mean?
No matter what I say, no matter what I do.
But have you tried saying or doing anything? Have you tried saying or doing anything against Ethan?
Thank you for saying that. Joey says love to you and Lee.
The most pathetic loser I've ever fucking seen. What a pathetic fucking loser. Imagine having respect for that guy. Imagine liking that guy.
Donate to this fundraiser so that he can answer for his crimes. Ethan Klein, to be clear, is a criminal and he should be made to answer for his crimes. So she sent him a letter, and it is a much better written letter than Rom Disbard Nassim's letter to Noah Samson, if I do say so myself, by the way. You notice how Ethan's not talking about that anymore? It's because he's quietly...
Yeah, what happened to the... I thought Ethan Klein was going to sue Noah Samson. What happened? Did he sue Noah Samson? I must have missed it. Did he sue Noah Samson? What happened? I guess nothing? Oh, okay.
His plan...
What happened about the skulls? I thought somebody sent skulls to his house. What happened with the skulls story? Is there any investigation going on? Is there anything more going on with the skulls, the supposed skulls being sent to his house? Now, one of his merch artists just recently put a skull in one of his pieces of merch. Isn't that correct? Wasn't there like a skull in one of his merch artists recently? Like, am I crazy? He ain't gonna sue shit. He needed to sue his brain. I mean, like, I'm just saying, like, I heard someone claim he was able to return them. Wait, why would you return evidence of a crime? If someone sent me a skull in the mail, I would turn that over to law enforcement. Especially if I'm a multimillionaire. What is he trying to get, a couple $1,000? Like, I guess to pay for his lawsuit that he's losing against Ryan Kavanaugh. His t-shirts lately all have skulls. So in other words, an artist ordered the skulls so they would have something that was accurate to draw off of, and then they returned them when they were done. Is that right? Is that what happened? I mean, like, because the story of somebody decided to spend thousands of dollars to get a legitimate skulls sent to Ethan Klein's house so that he could then return them for money and get a refund. Ethan hosted someone who dated Noah in the past, the most disgusting manner possible. I feel terrible for Noah. My personal feeling is, like, the internet, people like Ethan Klein, like, it is what it is, right? Like, if you date and you're a celebrity in any way, even a micro celebrity, some people, like, you're gonna date them and then you're gonna realize that they're just not for you, they're not mentally stable, and they're just not somebody that you want to continue a relationship with. And when you reject someone, you don't have any power over how they handle that reaction. And a lot of times when you date people, you trust them. You implicitly trust them, and you share private details with them. And so they now have that, they have that ability to share that private information with others and harm you. And that's a risk of dating. And that's what sucks. That's why, that's part of, like, a downside of having any kind of celebrity or notoriety in public, is that people can use your private information against you when they're bitter that you didn't want to date them anymore. And I feel like as a content creator, there's a little bit of an unspoken solidarity that we're all supposed to have, where we go, you know what, if you date someone and then they're just batshit and they just want to attack you because they're bitter, we should probably not push that, right? Now, if you ever violate somebody's rights or you commit a crime against them, then I'm going to call you out on that every time. I'm not going to do an old boys club. But the fact that Ethan Klein, like, tried to hunt down exes just so they could have them on to whine about how Noah Samson doesn't want to date her anymore was honestly pathetic to, like, Ethan Klein. It didn't make Noah look bad. Like, it didn't make Noah look bad at all. It just made Ethan Klein look like a pathetic fucking loser.
It's Noah Samson. You never planned to go through it in the first place. On the newest and most viral, Big Horny. Zoom ears with a ball bunk. Okay, I hate you people so much. So we have a letter here, short, precisely to the point, citing the relevant laws and specific instances of defamation. Our law firm is legal counsel to social media commentator and content creator Denims. It has come to our attention that in response to an apparent child protective services visit to your home in around March 2025, you notice the apparent because it's not proven. Good strat. I approve. So he stated, either that Denims herself filed the CPS report, resulting in the CPS visit, or that Denims caused others to do so. Among other things, he stated Denims is participating in this CPS lie. Denims endorses this. Clearly, as you can see, she's not moderating at all. You repeatedly insinuated that Denims was responsible for the CPS call, labeling her the real villain of the video. You also stated...
Yeah, I feel like we've already watched this. You're right. I don't want to rewatch the thing. Let's move on to the Ethan Klein is wrong about. You're right. I think my main point of that, we did watch that on Friday, so it feels a little duplicative. I just wanted to say win for Bad Empanada. You know what I mean? I just wanted to be like pro Bad Empanada. I just wanted to reiterate my pro Bad Empanada position and status. Bad Empanada, awesome. All right, let's watch the GDF video about Ethan Klein. And this is what I love to see. Like, I think one of the things that has happened that I don't think people like Destiny, Lonerbox, or any of these guys go is, like, your self-identification isn't what you are in and of itself. We live in a social society. If you self-identify as a progressive, that doesn't mean you actually are progressive. If every other progressive person doesn't fuck with you, you're not a progressive. Your self-ID is meaningless. All so the political milieu that Ethan Klein says he wants to inhabit is just closed off to him, man. You're not a left-winger, and no left-winger is ever going to fuck with you. Now, maybe you can get some centrist Zionists, Maybe you can get some Trump supporters and right wingers. But as far as left wingers, if somebody is political, they're not going to fuck with you. And so the thing about the Destiny space is Destiny is not a political guy. He's a guy with an audience of parasocial fans, and they do what he says. Like if tomorrow Destiny declared that he was now going to be a Trump supporter, his audience would not leave. Like they're not political people. They're Destiny fans. Why are they Destiny fans? Life is cruel to a lot of people, okay? It's cruel to a lot of people, and they end up in abusive situations, and that's that. So Ethan Klein, and what Destiny and Ethan Klein don't seem to understand is Hassan is political, and progressive people do fuck with him. Bernie Sanders fucks with Hassan. Mélenchon, the leader of the left in Israel, fucks with Hassan. Yanis Varoufakis fucks with Hassan. AOC fucks with Hassan. They're never gonna fuck with you, bro. You ain't left. You ain't in. Did I say what did I say? Did I say Israel?
The civil unrest in Israel.
Mélenchon is the leader of the left in France. Sorry, I was looking at Ethan Klein and the word Israel must have been in the back of my mind. Mélenchon, the leader of the left in France. Did I say Israel? Oh my God, brain fart. Sorry, it's 7 a.m. Malicious slander. Mélenchon is the only politician in France that's really standing up to Israel, of the leader of a party. Sorry for the brain fart chat. Ugh. Can I just say, Ethan Klein really does represent the average Israeli supporter in my mind. When I think Zionist, Ethan Klein is the perfect example of it. Defamer, self-victimizer, bad faith, liar, unwell.
That's part of what a lot of the civil unrest in Israel is about, is that a lot of people do care about
stopped by ICE, yes.
The hostages and think that the government is to stop the war and focus on getting the hostages back and not killing innocent civilians. So that
I wonder about that last part. I wonder if the Israeli body politic.
Oh, you think the Israelis want civilians to die? There were massive demonstrations in Israel. Tens of thousands of people in a country that's relatively small. So I think characterizing like the majority of the public as wanting to kill civilians is a little sick, personally.
Ethan Klein appears to harbor contradictions. In his recent conversation with Sam Seder of the Majority Report, he claims to have optimism with regard to Israeli society. Israelis do not wish death on Palestinian civilians. He claims this is evident in the protests in Israel for the end of hostilities in Gaza. Though in more casual conversation, he not only tolerates but appears to share a more jaded outlook.
The thing is, in Ramallah, there's a lot of, there's going to be like Hamas operatives and Islamic jihadists and stuff that live there. So I don't even know necessarily if it's like the ordinary people, but yeah, they will kill you.
I just got out of the bathroom. What did I miss?
Whether sincere or not,
AB just being pathetic cuck in the clip. Thank you, GDF.
I found his incredulousness at the notion of Israeli society supporting the killing of Palestinian civilians interesting. Following October 7th, what Americans could glean from reactions inside Israel to the carnage in Gaza was no less than completely horrifying. Members of the Knesset called for nuking Gaza. A prominent general wrote opinion pieces calling for inducing epidemics of disease and making the strip uninhabitable. Israel's finance minister shared the article and expressed his agreement. Israelis took to social media to mock Palestinians, gloating over their running water and electricity, which was cut off to Gaza.
That looks exactly like Dan Saltzman.
Though, for some reason, I held on to an assumption that these were narrow and incomplete glimpses into Israeli society. I suppose I had a optimistic view that Israelis would surely harbor a capacity for empathy with Palestinians, to some degree. What I saw in the spring of 2024 was therefore a gut punch. It was a report from Pew Research Center titled, Israeli Views of the Israel-Hamas War. I read it carefully, and a figure leaped out at me. Israeli Arabs, Palestinians, are much more likely than Jews to say the country's military response has gone too far. 74% versus 4%. Honestly, reading it now, I still can't believe it. and for that I feel incredibly naive. I guess it fundamentally altered what I believed about humanity, about people. It was genuinely horribly depressing. For me, it was a sign of the damage that's been done and the work that is ahead. Or maybe there are other ways to interpret it.
I mean, just like look at this shit, man.
It certainly was not a moment of optimism for me.
How do we deprogram Israelis after the apartheid ends? I just don't know how genocidal fervor like this can be stopped so they can live in harmony with their victims. Should they be sent to Europe? Throughout history, when oppressions end, what usually happens is the oppressed don't want to seek revenge, and the oppressors have shame. Now, there are some people that are absolutely going to have to be brought to justice and be made public spectacles. There are people that do need to be punished to the fullest extent of the law. But for the most part, it was not necessary, and it is not necessary to do collective punishment, but rather to build structures of society of reparation and to do what you need to do to re-educate the society against the bigotries that have prevailed for so long. The oppressed don't want to dominate. They want to be treated equally. And I do think a lot of the most white supremacist Israelis will leave, and they will just return to the mother country from which they launched their colonization effort, whether it's Poland, whether it's the United States, whether it is other countries, other European countries or North American countries.
Already in December of 2023, Human Rights Watch reported the Israeli government is using starvation of civilians as a method of warfare in the Gaza Strip, which is a war crime. Israeli forces are deliberately blocking the delivery of water, food, and fuel. By the new year, the images of destruction in Gaza were no less than apocalyptic. As we all clear...
Like, I'm fighting with liberals right now on Threads. They're swearing that the ceasefire was done under Biden, not by Trump's golfing buddy. They're wrong. It was literally done by Trump. But it's over now, and they're bombing Gaza again. So there was temporary ceasefires under both, but there's no permanent ceasefire. It literally doesn't matter. Both Trump and Biden are the same.
Clearly remember, as it was widely reported. Owing to a bombing campaign that you'd have to go back to the Vietnam War to make a comparison, in the words of Mark Garlasco, who's frequently interviewed by news outlets for his unique expertise in weapons. He worked for U.S. intelligence, the United Nations, and Human Rights Watch, for which he investigated Israel's 2006 bombing of Lebanon. Other quotes from experts were similarly astonishing. In 2 months, we've had about the level of strikes in this tiny little area in Gaza as what we saw in Mosul and Raqqa combined, said Larry Lewis, research director at the Center for Naval Analyses and formerly the U.S. State Department's senior advisor on civilian harm. Even CNN in this article placed the number of killed as of January 2024 at nearly 25,000. 1 year after October 7th, many more tens of thousands had been killed.
Is the India-Pakistan clash over? I was hoping it would escalate into Armageddon. Okay, misanthropic leftist, you just need to, like, honestly, dude, get help. Honestly, get help. You're done for the day. You're done for the day. You're just sad. I don't know if the bit isn't even funny, man. Like, the bit isn't even funny, and it doesn't even really aggravate me. It's just kind of boring, man. You're done. Yeah, it looks like India and Pakistan are going towards a ceasefire because India's Air Force was utterly bitch-slapped by the Pakistani Chinese weapons. It looks like the Pakistan's Chinese weapons utterly fucking humiliated. And Sweden. It was Sweden and Chinese weapons that fucking owned the Indian, American and French weapons. So, I don't know. It looks like a ceasefire is kind of, like, probable. What happened with Hassan and Ice, I'll talk about in a bit. He's fine. He's fine.
The number couldn't possibly be known for certain. A credible study from The Lancet, reported by the New York Times, said many tens of thousands more than the oft-cited but conservative Ministry of Health numbers. Gaza had been so destroyed that even the U.S. president was calling it a
demolition site. It's a pure demolition site.
But protests had erupted in Israel to end the so-called war. Real quick, why do I say so-called war? In Gaza, we certainly haven't seen regular warfare, obviously. Hamas has no regular army. But we've hardly seen what can be called an asymmetric conflict.
Yeah.
It's important to note that numberless Gazans have bravely resisted the Israelis.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about what's going on in Gaza, which separates it from a lot of other situations. Normally, an occupying army, when it comes into a territory and displaces the civil authorities, they administer a military government, which means that military engineers, experts, there's a civil administration established, the civilian population, an economy is set up, distributions of resources, medical treatment, a new civil authority is put into place. There's an attempt to create a governing authority, and the occupied civilian population is cared for by the occupying government. Now, obviously, they're not giving them the same level of benefits that they do of their own domestic citizens, but they at least administer the territory under a military government. Is civil liberties, are they impinged? Yes. Is there not self-determination during the occupation? Yes. But there's a civil authority. Israel is not doing that. Israel is doing an extermination. Israel is coming in and just destroying everything of any value and worth in every direction. They are shooting civilians that approach the lines. They are not setting up an administration. They're not setting up a civil authority. They're not attempting to connect with a prominent civilian members of the population. They're not trying to set up food distribution and medical care provision. They are doing a medieval style. It's like even worse than medieval style. Honestly, like I think Genghis Khan was more fucking tolerant to resisting cities than they are. Like they're exterminating everyone.
Israeli military, despite unimaginable and impossible odds, including the following. The Palestinians in Gaza have been hermetically sealed inside without any way out. They have no peripheral sanctuary state for which to regroup and rearm themselves. They are completely trapped. They've had to dig tunnels going underground to find a sanctuary. This, in a strip of land the size of Philadelphia, that also holds an entire civilian population. Of course, the existence of this small strip is a result of the Nakba, as some 70% of the population are not from Gaza, but are refugees from the ethnic cleansing that took place, particularly in the cleansing operations, that's what they were called, in Ashdod, Ascalon, Beersheba, and throughout the Negev. So, Gazans are fighting from a place that is in no way conducive for combat, for reasons completely out of their control. The Israeli onslaught that began on October 7th was a culmination of lessons learned in previous destruction. We can clearly see how the so-called wars of 2008 and 9 and 2014 were punitive rather than driven by military necessity. Tank crews spent their time firing their cannons at buildings and destroying civilian infrastructure. Said a soldier who took part in the 2008-9 Operation Cast Lead, "Go ahead and ask soldiers how often they encountered combatants in Gaza. Nothing." The interviewer, "When you entered the Gaza Strip, there was no resistance?" Next to none at all. Following Cast Lead, veteran defense analyst Amos Harel quoted a squad leader who said, "The atmosphere in general, from what I understood from most of my men who I talked to, the lives of Palestinians, let's say, is something very, very less important than the lives of our soldiers." The Independent quoted a junior officer who served at a brigade headquarters during the operation, who described the new rules of engagement policy following the announcement of the notorious Dahia doctrine of disproportionality as one of...
This is literally why I talk about the Ethan Klein shit, is because this gives me the opportunity to show people who are interested in the drama of it exactly how bad it is. What the Israelis are doing is not just a war, okay? It's not a war between two sides with some accidental or maybe even isolated incidents of atrocity. No, this is an extermination campaign. They're killing everyone. And I want you to know, the Soviet Union did not do this to Germany. The United States did not do this to Germany. All right? When we were fighting the literal Nazis, we did not do this. Okay, we came in and German civilians were allowed to pass through American lines and go to refugee camps where they were giving aid and medical care. When Nazi soldiers surrendered, they were given due process and put into prison camps where they were given food, shelter, hygiene, medical treatment. Like, we never treated the Nazis on anywhere near this level of aggression and violence. The Nazis who did the fucking Holocaust, which is supposedly the reason why Israel exists. So Palestinians are treated far more harshly than the German Nazis who literally did the Holocaust. And that's how you know it's not self-defense. That's how you know it isn't defensive. That's how you know it is fascistic. That's how you know it is genocidal. Because the only groups that we can compare to Israel are fascist, genocidal powers of the past, settler colonial powers of the past. So there is no space for being pro-Israel and pro-humanity. You can't be pro-internationalism. You can't be pro-United Nations or International Criminal Court or any international legal system and be in favor of Israel. You have to be a fascist to support Israel. And I don't care what every other one of your policies are. If you support what Israel is doing, you are fundamentally a fascist person. And this is one of those things that the people will react to me saying that and say, you're saying there's millions of fascists in this country? And the answer is yes. There are millions of fascists in this country. Does that scare you? It should. Does that piss you off? It should. It pisses me off. And I want people to be mask off. I don't want to let them safely slink away with a mask of respectability.
Of literally zero risk to soldiers. Just take this incredible interview with a bulldozer operator. Our objective was to demolish houses. We were secured by heavy armored personnel carriers and tanks. In this case, the tanks were assigned to us rather than the other way around. The area was completely empty. Everything was empty. Interviewer, ghost town, not a soul in sight? Yes. We demolished a lot. There were people who had been in Gaza for 2 days constantly demolishing one house after the other. And we're talking about a whole battalion. In a separate interview, a soldier is asked, did you happen to escort bulldozers demolishing houses? Do you know what they destroyed? Why? How many? If they didn't like the looks of some house, if it disturbed or threatened them, then it would be taken down. Interviewer, but that was for operational needs? Operational needs, I don't know, maybe half of them. Sometimes the company commander would give the D9 something to demolish just to make them happy.
In other words, we just let the bulldozers bulldoze everyone's house and every mosque and every hospital and every educational institution and every childcare facility and every grocery store. This is not something we did to Nazis. Again, the only comparison I can think that comes easily to mind is the Warsaw Ghetto uprising. The Nazis literally destroyed the entire Warsaw Ghetto down to rubble. Because why? They were exterminating all the Jews therein.
This isn't to mention the demolition and damage carried out by shelling. One participant of the 2014 carnage, a first sergeant of the engineering corps, said, I got the impression that every house we passed on our way got hit by a shell. And houses farther away, too. It was methodical. There was no threat. They were spraying every house with machine gun fire the whole time, and once in a while blasting a shell into each house. A first sergeant in the Armored Corps recalls, we were all firing a lot when there wasn't any need for it, just for the sake of firing. We were firing purposelessly, all day long.
This is where your money goes, by the way.
Nowhere to be seen.
Where your money
This
goes.
can hardly be called warfare. These were brief, one-sided punishment campaigns. Israeli civilian and military commanders seemingly acknowledge this with their oft-repeated phrase, mowing the lawn or cutting the grass, which
My
also...
mom was born in Warsaw in 1936 for the whole war. First thing she said when she saw Gaza, this is exactly what the ghetto looked like. Oh, yeah.
Alludes to its routine nature. Josie Glausius explains the phrase very helpfully in a rage-filled opinion article. She had seen eclairs in a bakery in Israel that read, let the IDF mow them down. The Hebrew word written on the eclairs means mow, as in to lawn mow, but mowing is also a euphemism for something more brutal. Mowing the grass is a term popularized in 2013 to refer to Israel's strategy of attrition designed primarily to debilitate the enemy capabilities. To put it more crudely, Mowing the grass means bombing Gaza periodically to facilitate temporary quiet for Israel. This desire to punish the civilian population at large was explicitly articulated, and the policy solidified following Israel's strategic defeat in the Second Lebanon War. Giora Island is former national security advisor to Ariel Sharon and Ehud Olmert. Before this, he was head of the IDF's planning and operations branches. He now continues writing policy prescriptions in opinion pieces, particularly for Ynet and their affiliated Yediot Aharonot. You'll know his so-called general's plan to starve North Gaza. He's the general.
Surrender or to die in starvation. This is the all simple plan, which is fully consistent with all the international demands and fully consistent with the law of the armed conflict.
That the military quickly began implementing the plan is a testament to his influence in the Israeli defense establishment.
Eran Etzion was deputy head of Israel's National Security Council until 2008.
The ousted defense minister Gallant denied on camera that the government is actually implementing this plan. Netanyahu denied it also in a closed session with Secretary of State Blinken. And then, when asked by Blinken to say it publicly, Netanyahu refused.
Back in 2008, he wrote that in the event of another war with Lebanon, the suffering of hundreds of thousands of people are consequences that can influence Hezbollah's behavior. Israel's most recent offensive began with bombing, starting on...
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is just... I think we really come down to one reality, right? Like, if you think that other human beings should be collectively punished because of the government that they live under or because of their racial or religious background, you and I are never going to see eye to eye. I could bring you a million evidences of Israeli atrocity, and you're just not going to care because you don't value Arabs or Muslims or brown people as human beings, right? And so that's really what the distinction is. Either you value these people as human beings or you don't. If you don't, you and I are just enemies. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, I want you destroyed. It's just that simple. It's not very complicated. Like, if you don't see these people as human beings, if you don't see little girls as human beings because they're Palestinian, you're a fucking evil piece of shit and you're my enemy. And there's no more discussion to be had. And I think a lot of problems stem from the fact that we're just talking past each other. You won't acknowledge it because it makes you look bad, right? But that's fundamentally what it's about.
On October 7th, the ground invasion didn't begin until the 27th. This was accompanied by a further tightening of the siege, which had already been in place for some 17 years. Hassan Alian, head of Koget, the agency responsible for facilitating aid distribution, said plainly that these measures were revenge for October 7th.
مع هيك وحوش بشرية رايحين نتعامل كيف لازم. إسرائيل فرضت إغلاق كامل على غزة ومش راح يكون في عندكم كهرباء ولا مي بس دمار. بدكم جهنم راح تحصلوا على جهنم.
A sense of retribution and revenge must have fueled the other measures with regard to targeting. Yagil Levi, writing in Haaretz, challenges Israel's oft-repeated distinction as the world's most moral army. To reduce the risk even...
See, the reason why Israelis say they have the most moral army is because Zionists are Jewish supremacists. And so they believe fundamentally that there is a distinction between the value of life. So if you're fighting Zionists, then you're fighting the most important, you're basically, it's a Jewish supremacist religion, and it's not really Judaism. They just use Judaism as a token for a nationalist project. It's really Israeli supremacy is what it really comes down to. It's not really about being Jewish. The Jewish religion is almost it's honestly irrelevant.
Further, during the ground offensive, air and artillery attacks preceded the entry of the ground forces into every area and accompanied them during the ensuing fighting. In the words of a reserve combat soldier who entered the city of Beit Hanun and published an opinion piece anonymously in Haaretz, the level of destruction we saw was biblical, and our contribution to it was nil. Air, artillery, and engineering forces that preceded us and hit buildings from a distance prepared the ground for us so that we could enter with minimal risks. As a result, as of October 7th, 2024, Israel had lost 349 soldiers in the ground operation, a paltry 2% of the Israeli claim of 17,000 Hamas combat casualties. As Levi points out, however, this was simply the number of men killed, according to Gaza's Ministry of Health.
They just declare every man to be a combatant. They just declare every man to be a combatant, which, chat, that's a racial idea. That is not some sort of international law idea. That is just a racial supremacist idea. That is a desire to do genocide, to just declare all men. Most men are not combatants. Men are just guys living. Are you a combatant? Is Asmongold a combatant?
They had all been labeled combatants. The Ministry of Health's numbers are conservative, however. An analysis published in the Lancet and reported in the New York Times
Unless
says
he's fighting cockroaches that are crawling all over him, he's a combatant.
they may have undercounted traumatic war-related deaths by 40%. The number may have reached over 70,000.
I saw a report the other day where they say 5% of all Gazans have been killed, at least.
By the end of 2024. Worse yet,
that doesn't include the catastrophic injuries. That doesn't include the psychological damage. It's like 5% of the population being outright killed is the minimum.
Analysis did not account for other war-related casualties.
Is Asmongold a shill, or does he actually believe this shit? Asmongold is a nihilist. Asmongold is a nihilist. Asmongold is a sadist. Basically, what Asmongold believes is that we live in a cold, unfeeling universe, and that human life doesn't inherently have value, and the only thing that matters is his own position and pleasure, and that the rest of you are just pawns in his game, and he has a sadistic streak in that he enjoys watching other people suffer because it makes him feel powerful. So it's not like he doesn't actually believe in anything. Like, he's not an Israeli supporter. He said that before. He doesn't support Israel. He just enjoys watching people suffer and feeling a sense of superiority over them. That's really what it comes down to. He just likes he has fun watching little girls die. That's all it is. It's not like you're trying to put some sort of sophisticated political thing when it's really, really, really basic. It's really, really base. You know, it's like the feeling you get when you step on a fucking beetle or something, when you squish a bug. And it kind of, you know, that's how he feels when he sees Palestinians killed. It's sickening. It is sadism. It is weird. It's debased. It's debauchery. It's depravity. It's not really rising to the level of political interpretation.
Such as deaths from malnutrition, waterborne illness, or the breakdown of the health system as the conflict progressed. That this could be called a war is patently absurd. Israeli leaders have made their targeting and punishment of the civilian population known with their widely reported statements. Already by June of 2024, some 70,000 tons of bombs were dropped on a piece of land less than half the size of New York City. That number is more than were dropped on Dresden, Hamburg, London in World War II. Combined, the massive destructive power, with 2,000-pound bombs being common, erased entire towns. Amos Harel, chief defense correspondent for Haaretz, went to Jabalia and took photos and reported that the town, previously home to 100,000 people, was gone. Others shared the same fate, as described by Ahmad Tibi, one of the few Palestinian members of the Israeli Knesset. Entire towns, like Beit Hanun, Beit Lahia, and Jabalia, have been wiped off the face of the earth in bombings by the IDF. Cities comparable in population size to Herzliya and Dimona have been bombed into rubble. And the world, with its silence and its armaments and its material support, is supporting this. The media in Israel wobbles between total denial and depicting the actions as heroic, justified, essential deeds. We have arrived at an absurd rule. Nothing justifies October 7th, but in the name of October 7th, everything is justifiable. There is no security justification for such massive bombing. No military action can justify bombing helpless human beings or the eradication of Beit Lahia, Beit Hanun, and Jabalia from the face of the earth. This ethnic cleansing is reminiscent of the ethnic cleansing of 530 villages in 1948. In the Jewish-Israeli public, voices of protest and resistance are hardly audible. Israeli outlets reported on Netanyahu scuttling.
I don't really think there is a depiction in popular media that you can even use to describe the situation that Gazans are in. I mean, the Israelis aren't even really looking for collaborators. They're just exterminating everyone.
Negotiations, and it was an open secret that he did so in order to placate his ministers. A hostage deal would cause his government to collapse, and so Israel was effectively being run by the government's most fanatical ministers. Israel's left wing was furious and made as much known. My impression was that, certainly not all, but many Israelis had had enough. Also a year after October 7th, the Israeli Democracy Institute released a report on the public mood. On ending the so-called war, it was only an even split among Israeli Jews. And not even really. Only 45% wanted an end, 43% didn't, and 12% were no help at all. Of course, the better part of all Palestinians wanted it to end, which added several percentage points to that camp. I wrongly believed the calls to end hostilities was a broad and popular movement among Israeli Jews. The protests were large and widely reported on, but they were far more partisan than I had realized. Worse yet,
if Jewish supremacy were the motivating ideology of Israel, the abysmal treatment of Ethiopian and Mizrahi immigrants to Israel wouldn't have occurred. It's a white supremacist state. It's that simple. I mean, yes. All colonial projects inherently come from a supremacist ideology, and whiteness is one of the key pillars of that, especially because Israel in particular is a European colonial project. I mean, it is just a British colonial project. It is the South apartheid South Africa of the Middle East, or the Rhodesia of the Middle East. That's really the best way to understand Israel. Is it's the Rhodesia of the Middle East, and that's a British project. America took up the banner because we were struggling. We wanted to prevent Arab unity. The United States of America was very keen on preventing decolonized nations from going to the left. And so we did a couple strategies. The first is divide and conquer. Find local people to bribe. Like Qatar is a perfect example. Qatar and Saudi Arabia are local. I mean, they're basically ruled by what amounts to local tribal leaders that we created into pumped up warlords and then eventually into these laughably ridiculous monarchies. And that's what and those monarchies bribed the most conservative Islamist scholars in their society. So there's an alliance between this hyper conservative Islam, Western capital, and these, warlords. These people are only interested in their own wealth and power, and they care nothing at all for the people they rule over. They see them as cattle. And that's the situation. America successfully stopped pan-Arab nationalism. They successfully prevented the rise of left-wing factions. I mean, like, why do you think Hamas is getting so much money from Qatar and not PFLP?
However, were the reasons that this sector of society had for ending the so-called war. A little more than half said for the safety of the hostages. This amounted to the most common reason. The second was because they could focus on another war with Lebanon. Then it was that the fighting achieved what it could, 9% didn't know why, and 6% because of the great cost in human life and the desire for quiet, peace, and security. And 2% said for improved relations with the U.S. Someone who's been grappling with Israeli society's moral decline has been Rachel Fink. She illustrates poignantly a personal crisis for her upon seeing Israeli news coverage showing desperate, starving people in Gaza. On Sunday evening, when Channel 12's main news broadcast featured some of the most gut-wrenching footage coming out of Gaza, hungry children clamoring around a soup ladle in desperation, I felt for a moment a sense of relief. Finally, I thought. Finally, an Israeli journalist has made the brave and morally virtuous choice to do his job, to report the truth. That feeling lasted right up until said journalist, Elad Simchayoff, began to speak. Because it turned out that this wasn't a segment about Israel's failure to uphold international law or protect civilian life. It was a report about Israel's failure to sell the war properly. Not a failure of policy, a failure of branding. As I watch, I experience a kind of emotional whiplash. Time and again, Simchayev starts a sentence that sounds like there might be a moral reckoning coming, and it ends with a plea for better PR. But it is also possible to wonder if perhaps it is time to improve our, Simchayev begins contemplatively, humanitarian policies, accountability, Hasbara efforts with skilled...
And this is what AB and Ethan Klein are doing. They're trying to promote Hasbaran efforts in America, right? Like, obviously the youth just despise what Israel is doing. And so people like Ethan Klein, and Destiny and Lonerbox. These are people that are literally being paid and promoted to promote a genocidal ideology. And here's the thing. And the thing that there's two things to feel. First is it's not working. Everybody hates those motherfuckers. The only people that are siding with them are people that are opportunistically trying to oppose Hassan. So like Asmongold opposes Hassan because Asmongold is a right-winger, broadly a right-winger, right? So he's opportunistically siding with Ethan Klein to try to attack Hassan because he's a right-winger. But he doesn't like Ethan Klein. And that's why he tries to hang back. He doesn't try to go like, I support Ethan Klein. He's like, I don't really support Israel, but Hassan is worse and cringer, right? Same thing with XQC. And by the way, can I just say, like, I can pinpoint the moment when Twitch started to rot from within, and that is crypto gambling. I think crypto gambling and its proliferation in our society has actually done tremendous unacknowledged damage. Even the people that are supposedly profiting from it, like XQC or Trainwrecks or any of these people, they honestly don't. They're miserable. Like, they're fucking miserable. Trainwrecks was so much happier when he was doing his dumb podcast and watching like old reality television alone at 2 a.m. in the dark room. Like, that guy was so much happier. Like, his life sucks now. XQC is falling off hardcore. He used to have way more fun being unhinged playing video games. But the gambling has really fucked those guys up. And there's really nothing to do to, like, I don't know how to bring them back to reality. They're just addicted. So the spiral, there's no way to break them out. Like, there really is no way. Gambling addiction is, without a doubt, the worst addiction. Even worse than heroin. Like, I actually think gambling addiction is the worst addiction you can have. Like, heroin, somebody could hit you with Narcan and cancel out the heroin. There's no way to cancel out the gambling shit. Like, there's no pill I could give you. And you destroy yourself so utterly, but you look like you're physically not destroyed, like an addict of a drug. Their body physically breaks down and they look into a mirror and they can see it. But with gambling, like, it's, I don't know, man. The suicide rate of gamblers is out of control insane. And like, I'm somebody who knows how to gamble. I'm somebody who has gambled in the past. I'm somebody who's had fun gambling. I'm somebody who's good at it as much as anybody can be good at any of these things. But I don't do it because I understand the spiral that you can get into and how easy it is to have it consume you. And so I try not to ever promote it. It is like, it's crazy. And because we opposed gambling, they hate us. Because we were like, crypto gambling on Twitch, we don't like that. I think that's a bad idea. And here's the thing. You know what? We lost. The gambling's here. Fucking those stupid DraftKings websites is all over Twitch. You guys won. Gambling is here. It's everywhere. Like, gambling is all throughout our society. Like, when I watch, a streaming service, there's fucking gambling ads on there. It's over. We fucking lost. You guys who are pro gambling fucking won. It's everywhere. As a casino dealer for 5 years, it also consumes the workers. Seeing these people spend upwards of 3x their income on a daily basis is a combination of bad social structure and utter lack of laws. Yeah, I know. I don't know what to do about it, man.
Spokespeople, a clear and effective strategy and believable information, he declares. That's not a punchline, it's his game plan. For much of Simchayev's report, as his voice plays off camera, B-roll footage of starving Palestinians begging for flour and wandering through the rubble of pulverized buildings runs in a loop. When it cuts back to anchorwoman Yonit Levy, she sums up the segment with a single line. Those are the images being shown to the world, right, she says, with clear disdain. How many different kinds of delusional do you have to be to air horrifying footage of human suffering beneath a voiceover lamenting the challenges of public relations? What does it say about a society when you can look at a child, sunken-eyed and silent with fear and grief, and decide the real injustice is that she's hogging the spotlight? We're now entering a third month of a complete and total blockade of all aid into Gaza. This includes food and medicine, everything. Nothing has been allowed into Gaza for months now. Additionally, back in April, Nir Hassan wrote that Gazans are experiencing a severe water shortage, which has worsened since approximately a week ago when the Israeli Defense Forces struck the main water pipeline into the Shijaya neighborhood of Gaza City. Because of damage to the city's other water sources, the pipeline provided about 70% of the water consumption there. Now, why does it matter that Israeli society is characterized by a culture of dehumanization? It matters because it contextualizes the issue.
That you're just seeing here, this guy is not in combat. This guy's not in combat. You know how I know he's not in combat? Because there's no tense. There's no tension. He's just blasting his machine gun right into the fucking random buildings. The person recording it is sitting in front of the window as well. Like, there's no incoming fire. There's no combat happening. He's just shooting the shoot.
Because it contextualizes the issue. And it contextualizes Israel's...
Ethical Gooner says, I think the amount of dead children I've seen daily has completely removed any care of accusations of anti-Semitism. It doesn't mean anything. That's the exact opposite of how you should feel. I understand what you're feeling, but you're wrong. You should be absolutely furious that these genocidal maniacs are trying to use anti-Semitism to cover up for their crimes. That should piss you off even more. That good-hearted people in this country who are Jewish are being lumped in with these genocidal maniacs. And they use false accusations of anti-Semitism to cover up their crimes. And you know, anti-Semitism does exist in this country. However, for the most part, it's like Jewish Americans are not suffering a permanent position of subjugation in America. All right. Anti-Semitism exists and it's a problem, but they are not being subjugated to second-class citizenship. They were not treated like black people are treated or were treated under Jim Crow. Okay. So when compared to, you know, the confronting a genocide, I think diverting the conversation to discussions on anti-Semitism is fucking criminal and disgusting. And I think it's okay to react against that, but I think it's never right to allow yourself to have feeling, you know, to be tolerant of anti-Semites or to ignore real examples of anti-Semitism. And there is a reason why this is happening, because the left is more of a threat to Israel than the far right. The anti-Semitic far right is not a threat to Israel. The only thing that's a threat to the Israeli state and its ability to do a genocide and apartheid is the left. And they know it. And they're right. They're fucking right. The right wing isn't a threat.
Treatment of Palestinians, as well as their dismissiveness of Palestinians and their suffering. Its real-world consequences are apparent in Yagi Levy's Haaretz piece. The revenge impulse, accompanied by the notion that no one in Gaza is innocent, meant that those whose lives are perceived as lacking in value were put at even higher risk and may even have led to the deliberate killing of civilians, a consequence of the fact that conscription into the military is mandatory in Israel, which blurs the lines between the public mood and that of the military.
All right, chat. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how you do it. GDF using Ethan Klein to get people to talk about the genocide that's happening in Gaza. This is how we do it, folks. Use the drama slop to make people talk about the real issues. GDF, I fucking love you, man. I gotta reach out to GDF. He's such a king. Oh, here's the share link. I should have used this link. Use this link. Make sure you like, comment, follow, subscribe, turn on the bell. I do. Join the Patreon. The amount that anti-Semitism is discussed while hundreds of thousands of Arabs are being liquidated in Palestine and their allies in the West are being blackbagged feels fucking gross. Yes, it's insane. Like, nobody's being arrested for supporting Israel in the U.S. Even though there are members of a Jewish supremacist party called Jewish Power Party that are in power who are calling for the genocide of all Arabs. Nobody's being arrested for supporting that guy. In fact, people are whining and crying when people protest the Jewish Power Party guy coming to our country. Fucking pathetic. I think GDF is right, and I think GDF is right, and Bada Padada is wrong. I think Bada Padada is wrong. Period. I think that is Bada Padada's worst video, and I'll debate him on that point. That is literally Bada Padada's worst video, and he's wrong. Basically, the debate was, the debate is over whether or not you think that America supports Israel out of purely imperial logic or GDF's position, which is that the Israeli lobby has now, because originally the United States supporting Israel was because of our imperialist logic, what has now happened is a system of Israeli persuasion has hijacked the American government to make decisions that are actually contrary to our imperial interest and in favor of the far right extreme in Israel. And that is objectively true. It's not anti-Semitic at all to say, is that while the United States supporting Israel is done primarily because of an imperialist logic and having a cat's paw and it has all sorts of benefits for the American empire, what has now happened now is it has devolved to the point where there is now an Israeli influence operation, which now causes the United States to take actions in support of Israeli extremism that are contrary to the U.S.'s long-term strategic goals. That's not anti-Semitic to point out. That is just understanding the systems. And I think the problem is Badapinata is not American, so he doesn't understand American lobbying. He just doesn't understand the lobbying system in America. He doesn't understand the campaign finance system in America. He's just wrong. He's just dead wrong. And in fact, I think that video should be deleted. I think it's so bad. I think it's his worst video by far. I'll debate him on it. Like, that's how bad it is. So yeah, I completely disagree. I completely disagree. GDF is completely right. Badapinata is completely wrong. That's the only substantive point that I think Badapinata is totally wrong on. Like, I think there's no element of truth in what he's saying, like, at all. He's just totally wrong on that point, on that one point. I don't say that often, and the reason why I don't focus on it is because it's not really that important of a point, but he's dead wrong. All right, let us move on to the next point. I wanted to talk about this. The PKK is disbanding, chat. Did you hear this? I really want to hear Hassan's take on this, but this is a really important point.
We begin with breaking news that the Kurdistan Workers' Party, known as the PKK, has announced its decision to disband and disarm. So the announcement ends decades of armed struggle between the armed group and Turkey. More on this breaking news story. We'll bring in our correspondent, Sinem Kosovoglu, joining us on the line from Istanbul. Sinem, tell us more about this decision and whether this was expected.
Well, Doreen, a couple of months ago, Turkish nationalist leader, the biggest ally of the current ruling AK Party government, announced during his parliamentary group session that the PKK should lay down arms and a new peace process should be launched. And following that, we heard positive messages coming from the pro-Kurdish Dem Party, along with the jailed PKK leader Abdullah Öcalan. And 2 days ago, the PKK administration announced that last week they held their 12th Congress, because the PKK belongs to an umbrella organization that is called KCK. They said we will be announcing our decision. And just half an hour ago, the organization announced from its own affiliated media that the PKK is disarming itself and dissolving the group. So no longer PKK will be functioning under the name of PKK. And they believe, the organization believes, that the situation, the conditions in Turkey has improved and there is no need for any more armed struggle against the Turkish government and military anymore. This is a message that has been long awaited by the Turkish authorities, because the Turkish intelligence has been conducting indirect talks with the group, and also President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has been saying for the last couple of days that good messages are going to come through. We're expecting good messages. This means an end to decades-long conflict between this not state actor and the Turkish state, and many people believe.
No, you should never. By the way, the term Zog is a Nazi dog whistle, and anybody who says it is a dumb fuck, piece of shit. That's not what GDF was saying, by the way. GDF was not saying we live in a Zog government, you fucking idiots. Shut the fuck up. He absolutely did not say that. Now, if somebody does say that, then they are doing a Nazi dog whistle. And if you see someone using that, you need to correct them right away. That's not what GDF was saying. That's not what he was saying. He was explaining the Israel lobby, which is a fucking well-regarded scholarly work, which explains how the America's support for Israel and the influence operations that were established in order to protect American politics from turning against it have now gained a sentience and mind of their own, and have grown beyond the interest of the pure cold imperialist logic. Like, that's true. And if you deny that, you just don't know what you're talking about. Do you think Israel is benefiting right now from doing the genocide in Gaza? Do you think this is a good plan for Israel in the long term? Like, for example, let's assume that Ben Gvir gets everything he wants, and 2.2 million Gazans are ethnically cleansed or genocided out of Gaza. And they moved to, say, Egypt. You think that's going to end well for Israel? You're insane if you think that's going to end well for Israel. There is going to be a fucking movement of international blowback, the likes of which we've never seen. We're going to see that anyway, by the way. It's already baked into the fucking cake. I'm honestly surprised it hasn't happened yet. Yes, they will genocide Gaza and nothing will happen. You're wrong. You're fucking wrong, as usual. Just like the United States had to run away from Afghanistan after being defeated. Just like the United States had to run away from Iraq after being defeated. Just like the United States is running away from the Houthis after being defeated. This shit is just beginning.
That there will be no more mothers crying for their children, either who have been fighting on the ranks of the Turkish military or on the ranks of the Kurdish fighters of PKK. But of course, there are many questions lying ahead. How this process is going to unfold in the coming days, because there are going to be some phases, how they are going to lay down arms, who's going to take the arms from them, who's going to collect them, because those arms are necessary to figure out in which attacks they have been used. Also, another issue is the relations with the PYD in Syria, the Syrian Kurdish group, and the YPG, because for Turkey, PYD and YPG is just the Syria affiliation of the PKK that has been designated as a terrorist organization. How the relations with Syrian Kurdish group is going to unfold is another mark. Right. But I must underline that there is a huge, also U.S. support, moral support for this new peace process that is launched and that is today officially in progress.
So, Sinem, have we heard anything from the Turkish government, Erdogan himself, this hour?
Since the organization, the PKK, just announced this officially, I mean, they just announced the decision of their 12th Congress, we haven't heard from the authorities yet, but we are expecting a strong positive reactions coming from the ruling AK Party side.
I've noticed people reposting, sharing Sam Hyde clips. Yes, that's just called Twitter. Israel is basically making a huge gamble that they could do a good enough PR to keep existing despite their actions. They don't mind being a pariah because a global rise in false conflation anti-Semitism helps their demographic concerns by encouraging more global Jewish migration to Israel. I think that's absolutely nonsensical. Israel is the 21st century crusader state. It is a complete alien colonization effort that requires massive fundamental support from the mother country, within the case of Israel, is the United States. The moment the United States stops supporting Israel, it demographically and economically cannot support itself. It doesn't have the means. It's not important strategically. It's not important economically. It is purely subsists as a colonial state. The moment the United States stops supporting Israel, it's done as a genocidal, settler, colonial, Jewish supremacist state, an ethno-nationalist state. It cannot exist. So the idea of like, oh, we're pushing out 2 million people from Gaza is going to result in like long-term stability is just nonsense. It's nonsense.
Along with the Nationalist Party, that has been the government's strongest ally since the failed coup attempt in 2017. This is 2016, I'm sorry. So we are expecting strong reaction, but of course there is a minor, very strong nationalist faction inside Turkey that has been against it. But this time, what is different in this new Kurdish resolution process is the main opposition supporter, because in the previous one that has been held in early 2010, the main opposition Republican Party, or as we call it, CHP, was totally against this, along with the Nationalist Party, the MHP. But now the new process has the full support, and this is also seen as an important step for the ruling AK Party, that is trying to prepare for a new election in 2028 to gain the Kurdish support in the coming up elections as well.
Make sure to
check my logs, please, Mike. That's not what I was saying. I was saying reference at Boterbox smeared Chris Kunzler as endorsing Zog theories and that he was talking about pro-Israel media bias. I was saying how Hasbaris will call anyone talking about Israel lobby a Nazi. Anyone using the word Zog unironically is suspect as fuck. Of course. That's what I was saying. All right, chat. Let's talk about Hassan and the this shouldn't take too long, but the ICE stop. According to Hassan, he was stopped coming through global entry. Yeah, nobody cares about Loaderbox doesn't even have fans. Like, nobody cares about Loaderbox. Nobody cares about Loaderbox. The thing about Loaderbox and what him and every Destiny orbiter like Hutch don't realize is nobody's there for the politics, bro. You could copy Destiny's politics word for word. There's no popular base for that. No one gives a shit. That's why no one who follows Destiny ever gets anywhere. Because there's no support for that. There's no support for fucking a unhinged sex creep liberal among people under the age of 40. There isn't a base for that, dumb fuck. You could copy him till the end of time. Nobody wants that shit. Whereas with me, the reason why I do so well is because fundamentally the politics that I'm espousing are very popular. And I am somebody who's relatively good at explaining the beliefs of the democratic socialist or even further left. I consider myself to be a platformist place for everybody who's to the left of the DSA. Okay? I never punch left on anybody to the left of DSA. I still interact with DSA and DSA political candidates because why? Because that is where the masses are. And I use them as a pipeline. That's my entire project. My entire project is to convince you that currently existing socialist states are not our enemy and to interact with any kind of left-wing politician that I think is reasonable on issues. And, you know, they're all to my right. That's my plan. That's my project. A few months ago, you'd be at 2.5K viewers at this hour. Thank you, Ethan Klein. Of course. Thank you, Ethan Klein. You punch trots from the right. Trots are not to my left. Trots are right wing. Also, trots are just kind of mentally ill freaks. It's just a schizo ideology. Like, trots are just a schizo ideology. It's really just that simple. That's why people don't like them, because they're just full of schizos. Just like MAGA communism is a schizo ideology. Please explain trot hate. No. 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 Can you explain trots? No. It's not worth your time. Like, they're annoying and they're not funny enough to be fun. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a lose-lose. Assadists are funny. Trots? No. Assadism is funny. Like, we can talk about it because it's funny to think about. It was Customs and Border Patrol, chat, not ICE. You're right. Customs and Border Patrol. It happened. So basically, Hassan has global entry, it looks like. I got stopped at Customs and Border Patrol at global entry for additional questioning. I'm out. It wasn't that bad. Very strange experience overall, though. I think Hassan let me see if I can find his replies because he talked more about it. I've dealt with a trot that blames Solon for October 7th. Yeah, because they're just schizo. They're just schizo. That's it. New Bad Empanada just dropped? Oh, thank you.
So apparently Ethan Klein has issued an open challenge to like any of his opponents who want to debate him, which is very funny, given that he has been actively dodging my open...
Okay, chat. There is a person who personally, I have no interest in calling Ethan Klein's pathetic show and having his, you know, cowardly little staff and chat and basically debate ChatGPT. I will debate Ethan Klein one-on-one in person only with a neutral moderator. No internet, no fucking ChatGPT, in person, no crew, nobody else to watch clips and then, you know, watch your clips but not watch my clips. In-person debate only. No help. I'll do that. I'm not going to call into his show so he can mute me and mock me and have his like dumb crew sit there going like, man, Ethan, you're so right. Like, I don't need that shit. Fuck you. In-person debate. Now, there is one person who I think should debate Ethan Klein, and that is Bad Empanada. Because Bad Empanada doesn't give a shit. If I call Ethan Klein, I'm going to get in. I'll be so full of hate that, you know, I might get a little too unhinged. And that's not my brand, okay? I don't want to be that unhinged. But Bad Empanada, he could do it. Got stopped by CBP for additional questioning. They asked me about my job. They knew already. Trump, Israel, Houthis, Hamas, even Twitch bans. This is something that I've tried to say to Hassan and other left-wing creators for a long time, is that they're monitoring us and they hate us. Okay? Like they're monitoring us and they hate us. Which reminds me, chat, if you enjoy this stream, please consider supporting the stream by subscribing at tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 sub. The single best way to support the channel is subscribing to the channel. Because right now, chat, my sub counter thing is broken. Whenever I try to do my sub goal now, my subscription goal, it just breaks. It just shows how many followers I have on Twitch. This is not the... I don't know why it's broken. Can someone explain that to me? So because my subscriber bar is broken, I don't know how many subs I have. So you need to support the stream. You know, because right now we're below 7,000 subs. And that makes me sad because Ethan Klein monitors my subscriptions. And it was really pissing him off that I was above 7,000. I was between 7,000 and 8,000 paying members. And he was really crying about it. He cried about it a lot. So I don't want my subs to dip. I need you guys to subscribe because they would ignore me. I wouldn't matter. But the fact that, you know, we find them stupid and we're not intimidated and we're not scared and we're living our best lives, that's what they're mad about. H3, when they found out your average viewership.
3.8K average.
How much?
Right now, the past 30 days, 3.8.
Okay.
Wild.
Yeah, I know.
Like
the fact that they're able to succeed is a condemnation of the entire
I honestly need to use that as a quote. The fact that he's able to succeed is a condemnation of the entire movement. Ethan Klein. Yes! Mike, this is tired. I beg to differ. Political streamers on Twitch. Do you think any of these people old efforts? You know what I mean? Old art. One of the more successful political. I'm liking my own posts.
It's pretty disturbing, but it is what.
Oh, here it is. Here it is. This is what I wanted to show you, Chad. Bother insulting me.
I mean, every time I look, he has between 7,000 and 8,000 paying members, which is pretty disturbing, but it is.
I want to remind you, Chad, that when Ethan Klein and crew did a St. Patrick's Day like subathon with their millions of subscribers, they were only able to get to 10K. This motherfucker is falling off. And so when he sees me able to get 7,000 paying members just by shilling to you once a day, he feels an intense and embarrassing burning jealousy. That's where the wild comes. That's where the frustration comes from, because Ethan Klein is falling off. So every time you subscribe at tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 sub, if you have Amazon Prime, you can attach that to your Twitch account and you get 1 free sub a month. That's $2.50 from Jeff Bezos' pocket. You're putting directly into mine. That's also a dagger you're shooting right to the psyche of Ethan Klein. And I can't think of a more valuable thing you could do with your money. So you're supporting me. You're helping promote the stream and the algorithm. If you gift subs, there's a lot of people here working paycheck to paycheck, parents of young children, college students, people out of fixed income because of retirement or they're on disability, or just regular people struggling to make ends meet. They deserve to be educated and edified and agitated and brought into our political movement. And when you gift them subs, you're supporting that. And you also, you're boosting me in the algorithm so I get in front of more people on Twitch, and you're pissing off Ethan Klein. And like, how many times can you do 5 incredibly based things with one $6 subscription? I don't think there's a place where your money is going to be this more efficient than it is right here. I don't think there is a place. Ethan Klein TikTok.
It's always so frustrating to me when people are hating on Ethan, being like, oh, Ethan Klein lost weight because of Ozempic. Ethan Klein lost weight because of the drugs. He used to run marathon. Literally just Google Ethan Klein Boston Marathon and see what comes up. I don't know why you're surprised.
We've got some edgy material here.
Ethan Klein, a man in his 30s, made sexual comments on a minor who was a terror attack victim. Oh my God. I have to stop it there. I can't watch that. Holy shit. By the way, chat, the top sub gifter and the top bit donor during the hype train get the hype train conductor badge, which is a golden locomotive next to your name. So Meritocracy is a Myth gave 10 subs for as little as 11 gifted subs during the hype train, or 201 bits. You could have that golden locomotive next to your name that then becomes a purple locomotive you get to keep forever as an amazing chat accoutrement. Grim Odor, they even the tier 3. Let's fucking go. The single best way to support the stream is to be a tier 3. Did you see the question they asked from Hassan from his instant? It wasn't that bad. Yeah, I mean, this is fucking insane. Dumb, boring dad. Thank you for the 1,000 biddies. Provider, thank you for the 6. What is this? Why are you showing me a little pig? People are like, Mike, look at these cute videos. Am I your boyfriend? There's one person that I will watch little cute videos from, okay? Unless it is a black lab video. If it's a black lab, cute black lab video, then you can send that to me. All right? That is my healing process. I also will accept chocolate labs and blonde labs. The reason why I'm not requesting random stranger, yellow labs is my sister bought a yellow lab. So I feel like I've got enough yellow lab content that is, artisanal and it is what it is. So I don't need your I have my own supply of yellow lab content.
In the open-air kitchen of a small research clinic in Ghana's capital.
That's not. All right. Anyway, chat. We are dangerously close to achieving level 10 on the hype train. Level 10 on the hype train. Just 4 more subscriptions. Did you see this? And if we hit level 10, everybody involved in the hype train gets like an unlocked emote. Okay, this guy isn't chunky. This guy is obese. Or like not like. Okay, this guy's no. Okay, no more Black Lab content right now. All right, let's talk about the okay, I think we talked about the Hassan thing. He got out, they let him go. But that tells me something that I wanted to mention, which is a lot of people try to downplay, even Hassan tries to downplay his importance in the movement, and I understand why. I get it. Like, I legitimately understand why. I don't want to feel the responsibility that I actually have. Like, I have thousands of people that are coming into my channel every day to talk to me about politics. I have an incredible responsibility to try to convert you guys into useful political actors. That is something that I should be doing, and I should be doing it better. Like, I'm legitimately considering getting my untreated ADHD treated because of this responsibility. I need to do more. And, I know that we do a lot, and we promote people and we push people to go in the right directions, but I still should be doing more. He should still be doing more. And the reality is we're more important than we want to admit. And I think for Hassan, it gets a little bit scary to realize that Donald Trump is thinking about you. Elon Musk is thinking about you. The CIA is thinking about you. The FBI is thinking about you. The State Department is thinking about you and how to counter you. Like, this is a reality. Like, I think it's absurd, but they're scared. They understand how unpopular their positions are. They understand how dangerous leftism is to the status quo. They're not going to let us just run around organizing people and pushing politics to the left in an anti-imperialist direction. The imperialists are what? Going to do a genocide abroad and then get defeated at home at the ballot box? You think they're going to let that happen? It's like one of the things with me is I like being, a little bit back from the very, very front line. And that's what I appreciate with Hassan. Hassan is the beginning of the funnel. Hassan is the wide end of the funnel. And you should value that. Okay, let's keep going. I wanted to talk about the tariff shit.
Today.
Hold on. We're learning the art of the deal from Trump. Here it is. Wait, what the fuck? I just had the video.
U.S. equity futures are on the move this morning following the news of a 90-day lowering of most tariffs between the United States and China to a much lower level. 30% is what we're talking about, which is well below.
This is why they did it, because the news was so bad. China's exports surge as shipments to Southeast Asian countries offset plunge to U.S. trade. Export jumped 8.7% last month in U.S. dollar terms for a year earlier, according to data released by China's Customs Authority, sharply beating Reuters poll estimates of 1.9% rise. China's outbound shipments to the U.S. plunged over 21% year on year, while imports have dropped nearly 14%. So in other words, China is just getting around the tariffs completely, and the U.S. is the loser, and their economy is growing. Great job.
Below the 145% that exists existed before this, and far below the percentages that Donald Trump was talking about himself on Truth Social on Friday, saying maybe 80% sounded like a good number. This morning, you'll see that the markets, the Dow futures, up by more than 900 points this morning. Right now, we're looking at the S&P 500. We have basically erased all of the losses that came from Liberation Day. Since the Trump tariffs, down by just 0.2% at this point. So we've made up all that ground that came back since April 2nd. You're also taking a look at the S&P futures for June since the Trump tariffs, now up by 2.22%. I think that must bake in today's gains as well. So take a look at what's been happening with some of these things. Let's check out the Treasury market as well. You'll see that right now the 10-year is, 444. And the 2 years all the way back up to 399. So some big jumps that you're seeing with futures, and maybe that's an indication of less thoughts of a recession being much less likely.
Oil,
if this takes place.
Oil
Prices this morning, Let's take a look at. Well, we'll take a look at oil in just a sec. First, we'll look at gold prices. WTI up by 3%, back to almost $63 a barrel. Brent crude is up 2.9% at just above 65 at 65.75. So markets on the move in a big way. And look, I will say the president himself said last week that you should buy now, that things are going to be very good. This sounds like very positive news coming not only from the U.S. side of this, but also from the Chinese side, the messaging that's been taking place.
Find a way to make it work. Let's go straight to it. For more details on the U.S.-China tariff pause, we're going to get over to CNBC's Juliana Teitelbaum, who is in Geneva this morning. And we're going to come back to her, actually, in just a moment. I think we lost her in Geneva. But right now, one of the things we were just looking at, WTI, if we can actually flip that board around.
Yes, it was demand.
That's what I was going to say. It was demand.
Supply, right.
And this goes back to the question that we've had the whole time, which was that if it's lower, it was lower because people were worried that, there wasn't going to be the demand for it, that we're going to actually have some kind of demonstrable economic shock. I think clearly... And to Scott Bessent's credit and to this administration's credit, if they can actually get these tariffs down to something.
Well, basically what happened is they threatened tariffs, and then there was a massive surge in imports before the tariffs occurred. And then once ships started to actually arrive empty, Trump panicked and caved. That apparently seems to have been the situation.
Much more reasonable. Hopefully it'll keep the economy from turning over in the wrong way.
It's 10... on everybody and 20 on fentanyl, I guess, is the way it is.
Which is really some comments that sounded like they were making progress on the fentanyl side of things,
Then it'd be 10, which is going to be on everybody, supposedly.
Which I'd be very interested in hearing those details on what that means. If you can actually slow down
there is a question, though, longer term, and I actually am so curious to hear from the Treasury Secretary about this. To the extent that that part of our goal was to box China out, was to actually make more things back in the United States. All of the other part of this negotiation. So it's funny, the market loves this because they didn't want the tariffs. But to the extent that you believed in the tariffs, if that's something you believe in, which I think this administration has done and talked so much about, what can you get on the the other side, too? So
I think it raises questions for the tax plan, too.
And a huge question about the tax plan in terms of what kind of the revenue you're going to be bringing.
I'd rather see this.
Right. Our friend Kyle Bass is a big China hawk, obviously. But he said China came begging to the United States. Thousands of Chinese businesses were shuttered and failed each and every day over the last few weeks. 1,800 businesses in Shenzhen and Zhejiang closed in one major area of China this week. I mean, I think there's something to that. It's nice that that we have the Treasury Secretary first here. I think it's 7 to get because there's so many questions.
So many questions. Yeah. But right now we still have questions about this deal itself, which we'll get to talk to him about. Juliana is in Geneva, though, where all this has been taking place. And as we were trying to get to her earlier, we're going to get to her now. Good morning.
Morning. Thanks for your patience, guys. So here in Geneva, we witnessed marathon talks over the last 2 days, 8 hours of discussions on Saturday, several hours more yesterday, and they've yielded a major breakthrough. As you noted, we've seen the U.S. and China now agree to slash tariffs for 90 days. So both sides have agreed to cut tariffs by 115%. In terms of China's tariffs on U.S. goods, it's now going to come down to 10%. The U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods going to drop from 145% to 30%. 30% because you've still got some levies on fentanyl in there. During the 90 days, the Trump administration, Secretary Scott Bessent saying the two sides will negotiate. The U.S. will continue moving toward a more balanced trading relationship. Take a listen to how the Treasury Secretary characterized the Trump administration's approach to China and these negotiations this morning.
Neither side wants a decoupling. And what had occurred with these very high tariffs, as Ambassador Greer said, was the equivalent of an embargo, and neither side wants that. We do want trade. We want more balanced trade, and I think that both sides are committed to achieving that.
That was the Treasury Secretary speaking in this room just a couple of hours ago. He also used the opportunity to stress the Trump administration's fact that they've got a process, a plan, and now a mechanism for further talks, seeming to address the market concern that there wasn't a plan in place when the tariffs were announced back on April 2nd. This is clearly a message to the market that a plan is in place and trying to emphasize that they've got a pathway now.
So in other words, they just raised tariffs, but then they raised them by less than they said they were going to raise them. And that's good. Why?
For further talks down the line over the next 90 days.
Okay, Juliana, on the ground, in the middle of it all, we appreciate you joining us this morning. Thank you. And as we mentioned earlier, we're going to have the Treasury Secretary himself, the man of the hour, at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. So many questions for him. This will be his first interview since that press conference in Geneva, where we'll have an opportunity to talk to him about everything that's happened and where all this is headed.
It's crazy how predictable that all was. New Indian Prime Minister Modi, speaking for the first time since launching Operation Sindoor, said India's military strikes on Pakistan are paused. We will not make a distinction between government-sponsored terrorism and terrorist groups. Modi said, we've merely suspended our retaliatory actions for now. Modi on suspending the Indus Waters Treaty. Blood and water cannot flow together. He concluded with a nationalist rallying cry. When nation first is our resolve, steely decisions are taken. In other words, he gave up and got embarrassed, and now he's trying to talk tough. I think in the 21st century, talking tough but acting like a dove is the strat. I was like, talking tough is more important than actually being tough. Also, Donald Trump is getting bribed $500 million.
Some Q&A, I think, back at the Oval Office.
45%. No, but they would go up substantially higher. You know, at 145, you're really decoupling because nobody's going to buy. But they can go, they got very high because of additional tariffs I applied during the course because of fentanyl and other things. But no, but they'd go substantially higher.
And then on Qatar, Mr. President,
I think you will have a deal, however.
Okay, you're confident that there will be a deal. On Qatar, has Qatar asked for anything in exchange for that $400 million luxury jumbo jet? And how can the American people be so sure that they will not in the future?
Well, I think what happens with the plane is that, you know, we're very disappointed that it's taken Boeing so long to build a new Air Force One. You know, we have an Air Force One that's 40 years old. And if you take a look at that compared to the new plane of the equivalent, you know, stature at the time, it's not even the same ballgame. You look at some of the Arab countries and the planes they have parked alongside of the United States of America plane. It's like from a different planet. And it's close to 40 years old, might be more than 40 years old now. And we, when I first came in, I signed an order to get it built. I took it over from the Obama administration. They had originally agreed. I got the price down much lower. And then when the election didn't exactly work out the way that it should have, a lot of work was not done on the plane because a lot of people didn't know. They made change orders that were so stupid, so ridiculous. And it ended up being a total mess, a real mess. And when I came back, I said, by the way,
I did an amazing deal, and then it's a total mess, so now I'm taking a bribe. The reason why it's a bribe is Qatar is giving a plane to the U.S. By the way, how stupid is Trump? You're going to take a plane from a foreign country? There's going to be bugs buried so deep inside the superstructure of that plane, you'll never find them. Everything that's said on that plane will be directly beamed right to Qatar. And guess what? Qatar's not going to be smart against the Chinese fucking spies. The Chinese are going to be spying. You're basically speaking directly to Xi. How stupid are you? Like, imagine, oh, here, take this plane. There's no listening devices in it, we swear. Like, what? How stupid can you fucking be?
What's going on with the Boeings that are coming in? Well, sir, they're way behind, and they are. They're way behind. They were way behind. Another mess that I inherited from Biden. And it's going to be a while before we get them. And I think Qatar, who we've helped them a lot over the years in terms of security and safety. I feel
the man sold nuclear secrets to the Saudis. He does not care if he gives. Oh, yeah, no, of course, Admiral Poppinfresh. You're right. I'm just saying that an American president who's just allowing us to be spied on by everybody. Like, well, I hope there's nothing important that goes on in that plane.
Filthy. I think that, and very, very.
I mean, fundamentally, it becomes a good thing. Like, there's different ways to look at it. From the perspective of an American nationalist, it's very bad. From the perspective of an internationalist leftist, the United States being contained is good. So it's like...
Nicely, and I have a lot of respect for the leadership and for the leader, Qatar. And I think they knew about it because they buy Boeings. They buy a lot of Boeings. And they knew about it, and they said, we would like to do something, and if we can get a 747 as a contribution to our Defense Department to use during a couple of years while they're building the other ones, I think that was a very nice gesture. Now, I could be a stupid person and say, oh, no, we don't want a free plane. We give free things out. We'll take one, too. And it helps us out because, again, we're talking about we have 40-year-old aircraft. The money we spend, the maintenance we spend on those planes to keep them tippy-top is astronomical. You wouldn't even believe it. So I think it's a great gesture from Qatar. I appreciate it very much. I would never be one to turn down that kind of an offer. I mean, I could be a stupid person and say, no, we don't want a free, very expensive airplane. But I thought it was a great gesture. And I think it was a gesture because of the fact that we have helped and continue to, we will continue to, all of those countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, and others, we keep them safe. If it wasn't for us, they probably wouldn't exist right now. And I think this was just a gesture of good faith. And I don't get it. Someday it'll be like Ronald Reagan. They decommission them. You know, they get to a certain age, they decommission them. It'll go to my library. They're talking about going to my library.
So in other words, they're going to give him a plane as Air Force One while he's president. And then when he's done, he's going to just take the plane and say, this is my presidential library plane. So this is just a $500 million bribe to Trump.
In years out. But I thought it was a great gesture. And it's something that was done by Ronald Reagan. They actually decommissioned the plane, and he put it in his library. And it actually has made the library, I think, a Boeing 707. It's actually made the library more successful. So it was good.
Do you plan to use the plane after you leave office?
No, I don't. No, it would go directly to the library after I leave office.
Donald Trump is set to accept a very pricey gift from the royal family of Qatar, taking delivery of a Boeing 747 that will be used as Air Force One during his second term. The very lavish gift is raising substantial ethical and legal questions, and we want to talk about it now with Richard Painter, former White House ethics lawyer under George W. Bush and professor of law at the University of Minnesota. Richard, thank you very much for being here with us and kind of walking us through some questions around all of this. This is said to be the most expensive gift ever bestowed on a U.S. leader.
By the way, the government of the United States, our budget is $5 trillion. $500 million is a rounding error. To be able to influence a $4 or $5 trillion budget for $500 million is like buying a plane for buying a 747 for the coins out of your fucking couch.
Is a value of more than $400 million. The Attorney General and White House Counsel's office have said they believe it's okay legally. Where do you come down on this? How would you assess this?
This is legal, in my view, only with consent of Congress. That's what the Emoluments Clause of the United States Constitution says, that a person holding a position of trust with the United States government cannot accept a gift from a foreign government without the consent of Congress. Benjamin Franklin was ambassador to France. had to go to Congress to get consent to accept a snuff box that had diamonds on it from the government of France. That's what the Emoluments Clause says. And this airplane can only be accepted by President Trump if Congress consents. And to say, well, it's given to his presidential library rather than to him, that doesn't make any sense. He's going to be using this plane for the next 4 years. And he then, if he says it goes to his presidential library, that is a gift that requires the consent of Congress under the Emoluments Clause of the Constitution. Very, very clear. We can't have our president or anyone else being influenced by foreign government gifts. And that's why Congress needs to have control over that. And that's why the Constitution requires that they do. And Qatar, I got to say, is a very wealthy country. I understand that. They also have been spending over $1 billion supporting Hamas over the years. It's somewhat ironic for the United States to be accepting a gift from Qatar. This is
this is the thing that's so fucking funny about this is like people like Ethan Klein and whatever, or they'll be like, Qatar isn't our ally. Didn't like Asmongold just say that? Because we were pointing that like Hassan pointed out that Qatar and Saudi Arabia and these countries are all U.S. allies. Like all the really oppressive Islamist countries are U.S. allies. Egypt, U.S. ally. Qatar, U.S. ally. Saudi Arabia, U.S. ally. Turkey, U.S. ally. We prop these fucking governments up and protect them.
Money that really
it was Mudahar. Oh yeah, okay, sorry. I can't remember which fucking moron we're fighting with. You know what I mean? I can't distinguish between the various shades of moron.
In Gaza and getting Hamas the heck out of there. Qatar, why is the United States of America accepting a gift of this magnitude from a foreign government that supported terrorist organizations?
It is a worthy question. And can you find a good answer to the question you just posed?
I can't find a good answer at all unless this airplane is part of some big deal, the art of the deal, where Donald Trump is going to magically bring peace to the Middle East. But the last time around, the Abraham Accords, the Trump administration was not able to establish a lasting peace. And once again, Qatar has, along with Iran and some other countries, supported organizations that destabilize the Middle East. We need money to be spent on humanitarian causes, trying to rebuild after the destruction of the war in Gaza.
So let's unpack a little bit of what you were saying there. You're saying that it must be approved by Congress. That is, at this moment in time, seems unlikely for that to happen. If that does not happen, what does that mean?
I don't think that Donald Trump can accept it. It's unconstitutional. Now, of course, the Emoluments Clause of the Constitution does not have a specific penalty attached, but the House of Representatives can impeach a government official for accepting unconstitutional emoluments from foreign governments. During Donald Trump's first term, this was limited to hotel rooms and patronizing his golf courses and all the shenanigans going on with foreign governments that led to investigations by the House of Representatives and also to some litigation against Donald Trump. That issue was never resolved, but now we have emoluments on a much grander scale, foreign emoluments. Not only this airplane from Qatar, but we also have the Trump family is in cryptocurrency, and we have no idea who's investing in these various cryptocurrency ventures.
Like the just blatant and utter corruption that infiltrates the entire fucking American government at this point on both parties. That's like a fatal flaw. And this stuff is just so blatant. That's what destroys nations.
And some of that may be foreign government money, and that would be unconstitutional under the Emoluments Clause. But yes, we are left with that question of who is going to enforce it. If Congress doesn't want to consent to this plane, what are they going to do? Just sit there and do nothing and say, well, we're also not going to enforce the United States Constitution? If that's the case, then maybe we have to vote them out.
All right, so much more to come on this, but thank you very much for kind of fleshing that out and giving us some context. Richard Painter, we really appreciate your time.
It's being called a flying palace. The Qatari royal family is giving President Trump a new plane, one that could become the new Air Force One. The luxury Boeing 747-8 jumbo jet is valued as high as $400 million. That's according to an ABC News report. But one question remains. Can the president actually accept and fly in this new plane from a foreign government. Group chat is back. I don't even know where to begin with the appearance of impropriety or the security concerns of getting a plane. Who wants to start?
I can say, they're doing this legal rationale, which is that they're not giving it to Trump. They're giving it to the Air Force, who then is giving it to Air Force One, and then they will give it to the Presidential Library afterward. So they clearly are trying to get around at least the spirit of the Emoluments Clause. I'll also say, Donald Trump has not liked Air Force One going back to his first term. Yes. He has been trying to get it replaced, and there have been so many delays with the Boeing's new project that he basically is fed up. He's like, he wants a new plane.
And Boeing is struggling a bit as a company.
He's trolling like a few different players at the same time. One is Congress, because this is supposed to be a job for Congress to decide whether a gift can go to the president in a way like this. And the other is Boeing, because...
Does this thing have countermeasures? I don't think you can just tack them on after the fact if it doesn't. Yes, there are countermeasures, but basically, how do you talk about this? The United States government is basically collapsing because Republicans have been convinced that they can just break the rules and there are no consequences. So in order to get this stuff back on the rails... I'm talking about real political science reality right now, so it's going to get harsh. But basically, when you have corruption at this level, you have to start lopping off heads. What I mean by that is not doing some sort of violence. I just mean in the legally constituted court system, bribery punishments have to increase exponentially, and they have to be prosecuted extensively. So, in China, for example, they had a big corruption problem. When Xi came in, he raised the penalties for corruption and he started to prosecute prominent corrupt figures. And that was both at the high level and at the low level, right? So corruption all throughout the country is being targeted. That's what we have to do. We basically have to, and I don't think the Democrats have it in them because they're also extremely corrupt. So that's why I call this a civilizational threat, because this isn't going to be fixed. It's basically just going to continue to spiral. And you can see that with things like Nancy Pelosi making hundreds of millions of dollars from insider trading.
There is going to be a new Air Force One. At the earliest, it'll roll out roughly within the very last year of President Trump's presidency. And it may be later than that, so he might not get to fly on it.
So you don't think this is him being like, Boeing, why don't you hurry up?
No, I think he wants the new plane.
No, he definitely, but
That's fair.
also, look, there is... a foreign government could not give a president $400 million in cash, or at least I don't think they can.
Give it a minute.
And so there are obvious ethical discussions and questions and considerations and reasons that the Constitution was written in a way to try to prevent foreign influence on U.S. leaders. So all of that stuff becomes part of this conversation for very obvious reasons.
And Trump was kind of boasting about it on Truth Social, basically saying that they're getting it free of charge. And then interestingly, he says it's the crooked Democrats that they insist we pay top dollar for the plane. Anybody can do that. The Dems are world-class losers.
Well, this is a scandal.
There's 3
in
exclamation
plain
points
sight.
there. You think so?
Well, imagine if this was happening secretly and then it was suddenly exposed. The fact that it's out there and Trump saying, here's what we're going to do, not only is it an infringement of the Constitution, even if they say it's going to the Pentagon, if Trump gets to keep the plane at the end, it's a gift to Trump. The second point is, if you accept a plane from a foreign power, you're going to have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars checking that there's no surveillance devices on that plane. You don't know where it's been. And so under this scheme, the president is going to presumably spend hundreds of millions of dollars doing up this plane while billions of dollars are already being spent on the 2 Air Force Ones that are coming down the line at a time when they're gutting government and normal Americans are facing a lot of trouble paying for their grocery bills.
Right.
Politically.
And are nervous about getting on planes themselves.
It doesn't look like it's going to fly. Pardon the pun.
It's too early, Stephen Collins. You are not pardoned. Okay. Oh my God.
What could you even say? Hassan's talking about his detention now. Okay, I'm actually too curious.
You have biometrics on your phone. They could technically use that and put the phone to your face and unlock it that way. Hold on, let me fix this. Let me fix the banner. So just so you know, they could technically do that, okay? They could technically do that, But there's a trick. Either you completely, either you get a burner phone when you're traveling internationally, or if you have your regular phone, you can just do a passcode by either canceling biometrics, or if you forgot to do so, if you forgot to cancel biometrics like your Face ID, what you can do is click it 5 times. If you click hold 5 times in a row, it will actually disable Face ID, and it will force you to put your passcode in. And because there are laws against like the agents not being able to force you to put your passcode in, they can't actually access your phone like that. Now, there's different methods of how they can access your phone. From what I understand, they can also put it on a computer and just like plug it into a machine, and the machine just basically takes all of the information in your phone. So it is what it is. I don't know if you can actually do that if your phone is on.
I think you have to like approve it.
Biometrics, and it's a Faraday cage once you get into the detention center anyway, so you can't actually send any fucking text messages once you're in there. It's there's no access to the internet. But I'm sitting there and they're asking me about Trump. They're asking me about like Hamas, and he kept saying stuff. He kept saying stuff like, "Do you like Hamas? Like, do you support Hamas? Do you think Hamas is a resistance group? Do you think Hamas is a terrorist group or a resistance group?" Like, he just kept asking over and over again, right? And I kept repeating the same statement over and over again. I kept saying, I kept saying a couple different things. One, in terms of like Israel and all the wars, I was like, I'm on the side of civilians. I want the endless bloodshed to end. I am a pacifist. I want wars to end. I just kept repeating that over and over again. Every single time he asked me a question, I just kept repeating that. And every single time he asked me a question, a leading question about Hamas, I kept saying, the United States State Department recognizes Hamas as a terrorist organization. The United States State Department recognizes Hamas as a terrorist organization. So, like, he just kept asking me over and over again, like Hamas, Houthis, all this shit, trying to be like, oh, do you support them? Do you like them? Like, what do you think about them? Which I thought was fucking insane, because the reality of the matter is, okay, up until this very moment, if you were to say, as an American citizen, you stand 10 toes down with Hamas, or you stand 10 toes down with the Houthis, or whatever the fuck, they can't deny you entry into the country for that shit. I don't know what the fuck they're trying to do. So I was like, I'm not going to go beyond it. I'm not going to go beyond just like reiterating over and over again. The American government's position is that Hamas is a terrorist organization. But then he just kept asking me about the Houthis. And at that point, I was like, listen. He's like, well, do you agree with the terrorist designation for the Houthis? And I said, I'm of the Brookings Institute mindset that in 2020, when Donald Trump initially designated the Houthis as a terror organization, that was a major mistake. I talk about these issues from an academic context with humanitarian rights organizations and with academics and with journalists. As a matter of fact, this is perfectly this is, completely protected under First Amendment laws. And therefore, I don't understand what the reason why we're having this conversation is. And I kept saying that over and over again, at which point he just like kind of gave up. But what I thought was really interesting was, and I even followed it up with like, I call balls and strikes. And there are things that Trump has done that I actually agree with. And I'm not shy about saying those things, even though initially he said he was going to end all these wars. He hasn't done so. I think these wars are unnecessary. They're costly, and a lot of civilians die.
Basically, Hassan is saying that he was debate lording them. Here's the thing. The Customs and Border Patrol agents don't give a shit about politics, man. They're just following orders. I think people don't understand that just following orders is something that regular people think is a legitimate argument. I mean, hell, I have leftists telling me that with AB. He's just doing his job, man. Why are you being so mean to AB? I had leftists saying that to me who were fucking Hassanabi heads. In fact, they were hostile to me. How are you talking about Dan and AB? They're just the crew. They're just following orders. Why are you so mad at them? So, like, just following orders is an argument that people use a lot, and they believe in it. Now, if you're educated on history, just following orders is dog shit, and it's what the Nazis said. But
like completely idiotic and ridiculous. And I think they did it
All
because
right,
they know who
chat.
the fuck I am, and
Here's
they wanted
the reality.
to.
I feel like I can't pause and talk about this. And so I want to see what happened myself. So I'm actually going to call it early today because what am I doing? I'm just going to be like looking at this fucking story and not being able to pause. Fuck this. I'll react to it tomorrow in full. I'm just going to go watch it, to be honest. I'm going to go watch it, to be honest. Short stream for me today. We'll make it up to you on Saturday or Sunday, whatever. But I'm actually personally interested for my own info. So I'm going to just call it early today. And I'm just going to go watch this on and be like, because I've been turning down foreign trips. And because of concern over this exact specific thing, and to hear that it happened to Hassan is just validating my original point. I feel like if I'm gonna leave for an extended period. I'm not gonna like be ducking in and out. So we'll see. If I were you and Hassan, I would not be traveling internationally. I don't. All right, everybody. I'll see you. We'll react to this in full tomorrow. I'm just too curious that I can't stream. I'm going to be looking at other monitors and shit. So I'll just see you guys tomorrow. All right. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.